I think it's a little bit of everything, but to a certain extent, the emotional change. I think, I do work. Usually, when people I work with have had a significant emotional event, which has, sort of taken them off balance to a certain extent. So it's about how we can look at those particular events and how we can sort of transform them so they don't get hooked in emotionally through those. Because that's what generally I've found, and even kind of found with myself until I did the work, that certain events we have in our past, they kind of hook us in, and sometimes it can be unconscious. Sometimes we're not really aware of them as much. I think through my own journey and working with people, I've found that obviously a lot of our patterns and programs come through our informative years and stuff, and those still play today if we haven't really addressed them.
And what do you love most about dancing with Houston Ballet?
I think just the community. It's great. I think a lot of people have this idea of us being so against each other and
like competition.
Yeah, but it's not like that here at all. I think we're also supportive. People come from the outside and they're like, you're such a clapping company. We're always clapping for each other, and like someone could fall flat on their face and we're like, yeah, you did your best. Like go for it. You really went for it. There's not many places that could say that. I think there's a lot of competitiveness and some, So I think this place.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's so beautiful to have like the collaborative spirit and to, to hope that each person is doing their best and to support each other. That actually shows that the company is so aligned, and more people will be inspired to even watch the performance, because that's going to be seen also through the performance as an audience.
I feel like art to me and just the act of being creative is such a spiritual act, because it's like kind of the only time that we're fully present in the moment. And I've always thought of it as kind of like my mental, like try to do something creative every day, try to be in the creative process as often as possible just for my own well-being. So to me, it's all very, very interconnected. And then of course, just the aesthetic, I love things to be beautiful. I love to make my spaces beautiful, and, to kind of add that artistry that is like kind of a little touch of luxury to our everyday lives and everything we're doing.
Right. And they can be big T traumas that shape it. They can be little T traumas. It can be the way your dad or your mom looked at you when you loaded the dishwasher incorrectly when you were 8, and it caused a whole set of beliefs about you being right or wrong all the time. Right. It can be these little nuanced things, but when our cells react in a moment because of a stimulus real time, we're typically not reacting to what's right in front of us. We're reacting to the cellular memory of whatever belief system is tied to those source memories. That's what the trash is. It's the trash that we've carried and believed that we've gotten rid of. We've tried to hide it up on that shelf in our closets, yet it continues to come back here to be our fatal flaw. It's gotten heavier the longer we carry it, right? And so at the end of the day, like, I'm not one of those that says we need to just go into the past or completely dismiss the past and live in it. But the past does help us understand the present. And the present is the only place that we can actually start to take over influence and control of our lives, as well as the ability to put ourselves in a response and a receiving and in a really connected place.
First of all, you're a great podcaster. You're a great communicator. You're very good at summarizing and adding a very in-depth excerpt to it. That was really good. That's true, though. Everything you said was true. The first step is really trying to know who God is. I know we live in a world where it's different gods and all this stuff.
I agree.
But really learn who he is. Like, what do I mean by that? What does he think about humanity? What does he think about the world? What does he think about what is right and what is wrong? Really learn that. Really learn who he is, because it's kind of like if me and you are best friends and I know you, I know your flaws, I know your passions, your emotions, your logics. If I know you, if I hear someone come and gossip about you, I could know immediately if you did it or not, even if I don't ask you, because I know you. Nah, she wouldn't do that. I don't care what you say. That's not who she is. That's the first step. Know God. Who does God claim he is? Who does he?
Loving kindness, compassion, or otherwise a kind of concentration-based practice, either through the breath, through the heartbeat, or sometimes just through the rumination of God yourself. And then I move into a 5 minutes practice called the Tibetan longevity rites. It's kind of like a shortened yoga practice. You have 5 different movements. It's great for stretching the body in the morning, and again you can kind of focus the breath work on that too. And then I'll just finish off that whole practice with about 3 to 5 minutes just of deep gratitude. Just sit there in kind of a praying position, head on the floor, and just focus on some of those key things.
To be perfect. And because sometimes that's also a lesson. It's like we want to declutter, and sometimes when we become too obsessed or too looking just for the final products of how does everything look, and forgetting about like why actually are you doing it? Are you doing it for some kind of fear or shame? Or are you hiding parts of yourself? So I think it's a great reminder also to like be okay with taking a step back and embracing part of our mess, part of our hidden personalities, and to be okay with both parts of our shadow self and our soul.
The journey is so important. And, I'm glad you brought up a good point. Social media is not real. And, I remember reading this years ago, this woman, and she had kids, and she talked about hours setting up for the perfect picture. And I thought, oh my God, that would drive me insane. Like, I laugh. I do little shorts, and I've had people criticize me. And I'm like, that's okay. Then I'm not the person for you.
That when it comes to behavioral patterns, what should people look out for to see if they do have a problem, and if they do have to start taking steps to kind of, be aware and be more healthy when it comes to eating?
Yeah, I think the first question that somebody could ask themselves is really like, what's my relationship with food like? If food were a person, what would be the hallmarks of that relationship? Would it be combative? Would it be negative? Would it involve a lot of name calling and doubt and shame? You wouldn't want to have a relationship like that with somebody else. You would be concerned about that, right? But yet so much of our relationship with food and ourselves is full of this sort of like, I should have done that, or I'm a bad person because I did this, or I ate that, with this sense that because I ate that, I'm
pretty quickly see were kind of stereotypically like what boys were supposed to be into. And I think there was like a realization early on of kind of how harmful some of these messages were, like around gender to girls, because I think I would see my sisters being hurt, right, by these messages that they received around them. So I think that's where it started. And then I think just kind of growing up, especially always being around education and then having two sons myself, just very quickly realizing how some of the choices I would make weren't necessarily like in line with maybe more conventional masculinity, and kind of seeing the responses that would get, but also seeing how powerful that would be, especially for young men and young boys to have a man, to see a man making some slightly different choices, right? Like whether it's in the music I listen to or the movies I would say